So here we are, night one with Daphne and Whiskey. Daphne's the girl, Whiskey's the boy. Whiskey is the one that you're seeing, Daphne is underneath him. This video is going to go a little longer than probably it should, because it's kind of a training video too. Now, I'm going to get my glove back on. First thing when doing bondings is always have a glove handy in case you need to separate them, because when they go to bite another rabbit, they do close their third eyelid. They're not really watching what they're biting for. They do have amazing control over their bite, and if they want to break skin, they will. Hopefully it's not a situation where they want to do that and you just get bit, but it's nice to have the glove on just in case when you're going in to separate them. Occasionally when we do bondings, there will be a bite. Now see, he's just nipping at her there, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Occasionally when you're doing bondings, 1 out of every few hundred will result in a bite that requires veterinary care. If they bite and draw blood, that's usually when I stop. There's too many other easy bondings out there to pursue, unless there's special circumstances, some reason why you need to pursue it, but I usually don't pursue those as a rule. This pair came to us as fosters from the Bernalillo County shelter, I believe, as babies. They grew up together. At about 6 months, 4 to 6 months old, we separated them for spay and neuter. And you don't want the boy humping the girl when she's been spayed. Sometimes when they're babies and they grow up, they start fighting anyway. So it's not unusual that they started fighting with each other, so we kept them separated. Even if you have, especially if same-sex pairs like two girls, when they start going through adolescence, which is 7 to 9, 10 months old, they'll start challenging dominance, and they can start fighting. Also common amongst boys. A little less common amongst boy-girl pairs, but it does happen. In this case, they've been separated now probably for another 4 or 5 months. So putting them back together is kind of interesting, but it's a completely different type of bonding than what we normally do, where we have a single bunny come in and we're trying 3 other bunnies with that bunny. So that's why I didn't want to do this as a regular bonding scenario, because it's completely different. Matter of fact, this is the first time I've had a pair that was together as babies and trying to put them back together later in life. So it's kind of an interesting bonding for me too. Now, it's going pretty well. The girl is not being at all aggressive. The boy has been aggressive since the beginning. He's humped her twice, tried to hump her once on the head. We don't let that happen, because when they're humping each other's heads, that's when they have access to bite the genitals. So if you see that going on, you break it up immediately. Otherwise, you're pretty much facilitating the bonding. You don't want to get involved any more than you have to. There's always going to be some chasing that takes place. There might be some displays of what appears to be aggression. As long as they're not hurting each other, as long as they're able to stop it, then you let it continue. If they get into a circle where they're just chasing each other in a tight circle, you break that up. That's very dangerous. But if one's jumping over the other, that's part of the game. In the wild, if you have a male and a female, the male will chase the female, and she'll allow that chase to take place until she decides he's worthy, and then she gives in. So if you can see her eyes, see how they're kind of bluish gray around the outside? To tell them apart, because when I first got them, I was like, there's no way to tell these two apart. Actually, Kristen was correct. You can tell them apart. The eyes are one thing. That has kind of a bluish gray tinge around it, whereas his are more or less bluish gray. He does have a stockier build, and he does have a small wound on his lip, which maybe you can't see in that close-up. So it is, once you've spent an hour with him, or an hour and a half, or whatever it's been, you do you kind of are able to tell them apart. Now, because this is a learning video, I'll mention as well that he did try and pee on her a little bit. That's a very good sign. Now, you can see the interactions as they happen here. Ears forward is curiosity, good thing. Ears back is aggression. Tearing up my carpet is frustration. So I usually cover up with something else that I don't mind if it gets torn up, because I've lost a lot of bath rugs in here. So he did try peeing on her a little bit, and that was okay. That was a good thing. That's how they mark each other in the wild. Now he's being a little rough with her there, but she's putting up with it. And I don't know who, until then she put up with it. But she's not turning on him, so that's a really good thing. He likes her. He wants to be with her. He just needs to get past that type of behavior. And hopefully we'll get past it. I think we will. But in the meantime, the good thing is that she's allowing the chase to take place, and she's not turning on him. Now, one thing I was doing in the beginning that's an effective technique, with the bondings, you kind of go through 3 phases. You have something that is a little bit stressful, so I have them in the carrier together, which is kind of stressful. You got to be careful with that, because a pair that doesn't like each other, they're found in the carrier, and it's really hard to get to them fast. So you want to have a top opening carrier for sure before you attempt that. Anyway, it stresses them out, and this process is meant to be a little bit stressful. It helps to stress them out where they look to each other for comfort. Then I let them out into an area. This happens to be a bathroom. It's kind of a small bathroom, so it's kind of a small space, and I just kind of facilitate it, watching it, knowing when to break it up, not really forcing anything. And then we always try and end on a positive note. So I'll definitely, before I put them back in their pens, I will put them together and pet their noses so that they can have that positive interaction and positive reinforcement. Now, if he wouldn't be biting her butt, that would help. But the fact that they're able to sit together like that is good. If they hated each other, that wouldn't happen. So we just have to get over the initial excitement and the chasing, and I think we'll be good. So I'll try and dole out some more tips as we go. So for those of you that aren't trying to learn how to bond, sorry for the long video. The relationships go through 3 phases. It starts out in phase 1, which is the courtship, which is all this chasing and some biting, a little bit of aggression, those kind of things. Humping, chasing. And then we go into phase 2, which I call the great grooming standoff, where they often sit nose to nose until one gives in and grooms the other. The one that's being groomed is the dominant bunny. Normally that's the girl. She's being very patient with him, but I'm not sure that she won't turn on him at some point and say she doesn't want to be she wants to be the dominant bunny, and he needs to understand that. Phase 3 is when they're able to sit together side by side without any trouble. It's usually butt to nose, and that's when we know that they're exhibiting signs of being bonded, and we're able to put them together overnight. When I put them together overnight, I usually do it in the bathroom right next to our bedroom, so if I need to get out in the morning, if there's noises, I need to separate them in the night, I can. Usually by that point I don't have that problem. Has happened before where I had to separate them and start over again and go another week because of issues at my job. I don't really know how much time I'm going to have this week, so I'm doing a bonding session tonight. Usually by the third night we know whether or not we can keep going. I suspect with these two we'll keep going. Hopefully that's Wednesday, but we won't know for sure because I may have to skip some nights this week. It's just an awful time at work. So you do spend time with them every evening is what I do when I get home from work, and have dinner and able to spend time with them. 2 to 3 hours an evening for a week or 2 weeks is usually what it takes to figure out what's going on before they spend the night together. You can do it all in one shot if you have the time and are sitting at home for many days at a time, but with my job, I have to go to work. So they are in pens side by side at night. Every night I switch them. So she'll go in his pen tonight and he'll go in her pen tonight, and that gets them used to each other's smells and tries to cut down on the territorial issues. I'm also probably going to give him some chamomile herbs tonight. I have a chamomile mix that maybe will calm him down a little bit, maybe not. But we'll talk some more as the videos go, but that's it for night 1. Again, sorry for the long video for those of you who weren't interested in learning about bonding.